And breaking tonight, more troubling news in our own hemisphere. 2 Russian jets touching down in Venezuela this weekend, reportedly carrying dozens of Russian troops, along with a Russian defense official. National Security Advisor John Bolton tonight slamming Russia in a tweet saying, quote, "The United States sends food and medicine to help the people of Venezuela rather than sending nuclear-capable bombers and special forces to prop up a corrupt dictator. Russia should work with the international community to support the Venezuelan people." Here with me now is former U.S. Army Special Forces and Center for Security Policy Executive Vice President Jim Hansen. Good to see you, Jim. So how far do you think Russia is willing to go to protect Maduro?
By sending these troops, they have made a significant provocation and raised the stakes significantly. I mean, at this point, the U.S. has already recognized Juan Guaido as the rightful leader of Venezuela. So Russia coming in now and going against the will, as was mentioned, of 60 countries that support Guaido is a bad thing. And we should keep in mind, this is not the only place that U.S. and Russian troops could potentially be on the ground together. In Syria, they are.
Right.
And there was a group of 200 Russian mercenaries that decided to try and take a U.S. base out in Syria.
It didn't work out too well.
No, they got returned to their component molecules. So I think Putin should keep that in mind.
Well, again, the question is how far we might go in supporting those people who are fighting for freedom in Venezuela. But I'm just wondering, particularly after what happened in Syria, where the Russians saw that we were serious about protecting our interests, whether they're in Syria or Venezuela or any place else. Do you think Russian troops would really be willing to give their lives to support this clown, Maduro?
I think it is a provocation designed to create a response, and I think the question is nobody wants a military confrontation here. And the amount of troops that the Russians sent is not enough to even make a dent. We probably have more people hiding in the jungle there than they brought in on those planes. But the bottom line is there could be a situation where we feel obligated to protect people, you know, like Guaido's chief of staff and other people who are being kidnapped and picked up. There is no way the U.S. can countenance this, having decided that Guaido is the rightful ruler. So I think there's an upcoming confrontation that hopefully won't go to military action.
Shalom. All praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rakar Quadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Shalom to the whole for the elect. All right, so you see Russia has sent cargo planes full of, military equipment over there in Venezuela in the midst of the conflict between Venezuela and the United States. All right, Russia is doing the same thing for Venezuela that the United States have been doing for Ukraine. All right, sending them, artillery and things to continue to fight against Russia. Well, now you see Vladimir Putin is doing the same thing for Venezuela, helping them with supplies and things of that nature to combat the United States. And I did a video, maybe it was about a month ago, speaking on the business interests that Russia and China have in Venezuela. So the United States over there, whatever cause they have that they make up, to blind the people, whatever reason that they tell you they over there in Venezuela. You mentioned somebody being a rightful leader over there, which that just means whoever they say the rightful leader is the leader that will do what they want them to do. Drug trafficking, all of that, whatever, But as I mentioned before, China and Russia both have business interests over there in Venezuela, and they're going to protect their business interests, man. All right, just like the Republican, I believe he was a senator, Lindsey Graham. This was in the summer of 2024, where he was speaking on the reason that the U.S. has so much interest in helping Ukraine or protecting Ukraine is because of natural resources over there. Not only did they want to gain those natural resources, but they said the most important thing was to keep the natural resources out of the hands of China and out of the hands of Russia. So it's just war games, with the big dogs. When I say the big dogs, I mean those who have the big nuclear capability Russia, China, America, and everybody just positioning themselves, man. All right, but it says this is an AI overview. Both China and Russia have significant business interests in Venezuela, primarily through extensive leading and investments in its oil and the mineral sectors, though their approaches and goals differ. China is a major creditor with a large-scale investment, but has recently been more cautious, while Russia acts as a key supporter, providing financial and military aid and pursuing its own geopolitical interests. As far as China goes, has economic ties with Venezuela. China continues to be a strong, though quiet, supporter of the Venezuelan government to protect its investments, which include significant oil contracts. They have business interests over there. And this is the war game that the United States plays. We'll go over there and create some cause as they do in their media, but we will take over the natural resources of said country. So instead of Venezuela being the plug over there as far as the oil, if the United States were to conquer that land and have a say so as far as politically over there, they would gain the oil, and now the United States will become the plug for China. All right, that's all it is. They think they really care about Zebulon bringing cocaine on boats. What are you talking about, man? Nobody cares about that shit. America is the land of drugs. Kidding me? Says recent activity as far as China. In September 2025, a Chinese company installed its first floating oil platform in Venezuela in years, signaling, pardon me, I can't pronounce this word, signaling a renewed focus on oil infrastructure, according to the Venezuelan analysis. And China has a positive trade relationship with Venezuela as it pertains to the oil. So obviously, Venezuela having these relationships with these two other world powers outside of the United States will be a problem for the United States. So they're over there to take over the oil. All right. As far as Russia goes, they have financial and military support. Russia has provided significant financial and military supplies to the Maduro regime. Russia has acted as a lender of last resort for Venezuela, providing financial lifelines through deals involving oil and access to acreage. I probably pronounced that wrong, pardon me. As far as their geopolitical goals, Russia is more willing to challenge the United States and seeks to upend the existing international economic system through its relationship with Venezuela. All right. Russia has invested billions in Venezuela's oil and gold sectors. So it's all a play about the oil. This is why the U.S. Has created or has made Venezuela an enemy in its media. And, Russia and China, Russia being the more aggressive party, has business interests over there. All right, and Vladimir Putin, every chance he gets, does something to show America that he's not afraid of them and he's going to do what he wants and he's not under their rule. This is why recently you see Nero, he say, we're going to start doing more nuclear testing. Why? Because Russia and China is doing it, man. All right. So this is an article I ran across. Russian cargo plane 276 lands in Caracas amid rising U.S. Venezuela tensions. All right. Because Russia, as the AI overview said, Russia is more aggressive than China as it pertains to their relationship with Venezuela. All right. They're trying to protect their business interests, man. And the U.S. is trying to take over that oil down there. All right. So Russia and China would now have to answer to them. Are you seeing the, the rare earth minerals? All right, China has a monopoly on these minerals that are important to create cell phones and cars and things of that nature. All right, America had a problem with it. So how do you leverage that? You take control over something that they need, so they'll let their guards down as far as trade goes. You know, it says a Russian transport aircraft associated with the country's military and former Wagner mercenary group has landed in Venezuela's capital. Over the weekend, the move is being termed as a sign of renewed Russian engagement in Latin America. All right, the 276 transport aircraft, registration RA 78765, touched down in Caracas on Sunday following a 2-day flight from Russia that included stops in Armenia, Algeria, Morocco, Senegal, and Mauritania. Pardon me, I can't pronounce that, Salakia. According to publicly available flight data, the plane reportedly departed from an airport near Moscow with its transponder first appearing shortly after takeoff. The multiple stops have also raised speculation that the aircraft could have delivered or picked up cargo en route. Russia maintains military cooperation with Algeria, industrial partnerships in Senegal, and close relations with Morocco. One of its last stops before crossing the Atlantic has seen reported activity by Russian mercenaries operating from neighboring Mali. The West African countries are considered relatively open to Russian military logistics, making them ideal refueling points for long-range flights to the Americas. All right, now this is what it is. Possible delivery of military cargo. The 276, a heavy lift aircraft capable of carrying up to 50 tons of cargo or 200 passengers, has long been used by Moscow to deliver military hardware and personnel. As we know that troops were put over there as well. Planes of this type have previously transported small arms, munitions, and even mercenaries on Russia's behalf to conflict zones. So that's what it is. That's why they over there. All right, and this is a direct response to the U.S. Remember that the United States was sending all kind of artillery to damn Ukraine, which is an enemy of Russia. So now Venezuela being an enemy of the United States currently, they're doing the same thing. All right, it's just one big war game, man. All right, the aircraft's operator company, Aviacon Ziptotrans, is under sanctions by the United States, Canada, and Ukraine due to its links to the Russian military. The company operates a small fleet of 6 276s and has been involved in global deliveries of rockets, helicopter components, and warheads to regions where Russian mercenary groups have been active. All right, so he's putting weapons over there. All right. And, you know, although the United States is hypocritical, they can't really say shit because they was doing the same thing for Ukraine. All right. The Wagner Group, once led by Yevgeny Prigozhin, was one of Moscow's key instruments for expanding influence in Africa and beyond. Following its failed mutiny in 2023, the organization was formally absorbed into Russia's military structure and rebranded as part of the Russian African Corps. Reports have suggested limited Wagner-linked operations in parts of Latin America, though their scope remains unclear. You see the route that they're taking is not in the U.S. airspace. All right. It says strategic implications and timing. The Russian cargo plane's arrival in Venezuela comes at a moment of escalating tensions between Caracas and Washington. Venezuela, a long-standing Russian ally, has increasingly aligned itself with Moscow in opposition to U.S. policy in the Western Hemisphere, letting Russia be a guard unto him, being a big brother unto him. Because the United States militarily can bully Venezuela, but they can't bully Russia. That's why every time you hear Trump, as big and bad as he act when it comes to Russia and China, he might talk a little shit, but he usually ends it with, we want to de-escalate the situation because they got nukes too. A large amount of them. All right. It says the U.S. has accused the Venezuelan government of involvement in international narcotics trafficking and has recently intensified military operations in the Caribbean, targeting vessels it claims are linked to drug smuggling, which that's just a smokescreen, man. America is the land of damn drugs. They don't care nothing about no cocaine coming in here. No, they want that oil. Because if they get that oil, they're going to they're going to take control of the trade that Russia and China have with Venezuela as it pertains to the oil trade. And Vladimir Putin, this is why he's the more aggressive one, because he's been the one that's talking about, they're the leader of the BRICS. They want to X out the American dollar, and they want to X out the domination of the West as far as international trade. All right. In recent weeks, Washington has deployed a naval strike group to the region, including an aircraft carrier and multiple warships. The USS Gravely, a guided missile destroyer, arrived in the port of Spain, Trinidad and Tobago, on Sunday, carrying U.S. Marines for joint exercises. Venezuelan officials have commended the U.S. deployment as a provocation and accused Washington of seeking regime change under the pretext of counter-narcotics operations. The United States has illegal and completely immoral military threat hanging over our heads, Venezuela Foreign Minister Yvonne Gil Pinto told the United Nations General Assembly. All right, so, once again, it's just damn war games, man. The United States wants to, intervene as it pertains to the ruling regime over there and have a say-so and do business, and take over the oil. It's all it is. This whole Venezuela bringing drugs into the United States is crazy, man. All right. Since September, the U.S. has conducted 10 strikes on vessels in the Caribbean that it claims were involved in drug trafficking, resulting in more than 40 deaths. The Pentagon has also deployed submarines, drones, and fighter jets alongside 7 warships in the region. They blowing up these little ass boats. We all seen the videos. President Donald Trump's administration has framed the operations as a part of a broader counter narcotics campaign, while Venezuela officials insist they are aimed at destabilizing Maduro's government and seizing control of the country's vast oil and gas reserves. Boom. There you go. That's all it's about, man. All right. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio recently reiterated that Washington supports Trinidad's participation in the Dragon gas field, but emphasized that no significant benefits should reach the Maduro regime. So obviously, Maduro is the one that's saying we ain't giving shit up, basically. The Dragon project, which was initially launched in 2018, is being developed by Shell and Trinidad's National Gas Company under a U.S.-approved license. The neighboring Manatee gas field, which crosses into Venezuelan waters, is also being developed independently from the Venezuelan side under permission of Caracas. All right, it says U.S. bombers flying near Venezuela. 2 U.S. Air Force B-1B bombers flew over the Caribbean Sea off Venezuela's coast on Monday, marking the 3rd such flight in recent weeks. According to flight tracking data, The bombers, which took off from North Dakota, flew parallel to Venezuela airspace before disappearing off the radar. The show of force comes amid Washington's counter-narcotics operation in the region, which have included air and naval deployments. And counter-narcotics operation is a smokescreen. All right, anybody with any sense knows that. They want to take control of the oil. But the problem is that Russia and China, Russia being the more aggressive trade partner, they have business interests in Venezuela. All right. The arrival of the 276 in Caracas underscores Moscow's determination to strengthen its position in the Americas, despite Western sanctions and growing international isolation. With Venezuela emerging once again as a focal point of the U.S.-Russia rivalry, the flight is seen by regional observers and has more than a routine cargo delivery. As Washington and Caracas trade accusations, the presence of a Russian aircraft linked to a sanctioned operator and the Wagner network suggests that Moscow may be preparing to reinforce its ally with military supplies, advisors, or logistical support, a move that can further complicate the already tense balance in the Caribbean. So Russia is letting it be known that they're going to continue to do business with Venezuela as it pertains to the oil, and that they're not going to let America take over the oil over there. So now they have to answer to America as it pertains to this oil in the Western Hemisphere. All right. So the narcotic, whatever you call it, counter narcotics campaign, whatever it is, it's just a smokescreen, man. All right. This is the United States trying to gain resources to gain more power as it pertains to international trade. And Russia, China as well, but Russia being the more aggressive trade partner is doing what they have to do to stop that. And these war games, as I referenced Revelation 11 and 14, the second war is past and the third war cometh quickly. This is going to escalate into World War III. The same World War III that they acting like they trying to stop. Yahweh, Bashem Yahweh Shai, is going to put the spirit on these nations to conduct war on each other, man. All right. But I ain't going to hold you. Hope that video was edifying. Shalom.